Center for United Nations Constitutional Research. I've also been helping these wonderful climate youth ambassadors. I've only met them this year, and they underwent a training in Greece in the summer to learn about what it is, what does it take for a system change? What does it take for governance to change in order to save the future generations from the devastating effects of climate change? I will briefly introduce them to you. Today has been a whirlwind of a lot of activities for me, so pardon me if I'm a little bit slow. I'm trying to pace myself. Usually I talk rather faster. Anyways, I'll introduce you all to the lovely ladies. And as I mentioned, they are climate youths ambassadors, and they represent KUKR for short. Peter, who is not here, is Climate Emergency Institute. And I've also been helping Peter out for the past year and a half. Peter Carter, who isn't here, who you may see later, is an expert IPCC reviewer. So he's one of the many scientists or the authors of the IPCC reports. Yeah? Let me just briefly introduce Christine. I'll start down the line over there. I'll start with Christine. She lives and learns and works in Coast Salish Homelands, Barnaby, British Columbia, Canada, that is. She's also an award-winning author and geographer who, as Climatch founder, strives to help policymakers match governance with climate action. And I met Christine this summer also in Brussels and then afterwards in Greece. And she's a wonderful person to engage with. What she's going to talk about today is, I think I should give it, I'll hand it over to Christine to tell us a little bit more about what her favorite topic is at the moment. And if you have any questions, we'll do it in this sequence. I'll introduce the speakers. They'll talk about what it is they're going to present to you and how this ties into the various, climate emergencies that have been declared worldwide. Scotland was first. Yeah, the Labour Party in the UK was second to declare a climate emergency. I'm based in the Netherlands, in The Hague. Amsterdam has declared climate emergency. Another city has declared climate emergency. Now, in terms of action, that is only the first step by councils, by cities, by countries. But how do they commit? How do they make it seem like it's a climate emergency? If you have any questions, please do try and stop us in between, and we will try and clarify some of the, the things that you don't understand. All right, I'll pass it over to Christine first.
Thank you, Charlene, and that's a great segue because, as Charlene mentioned, I come from where I live. Actually, is the territories, the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, as well as the Katzie and Coquitlam nations. And so this means that the government of Canada does not have the moral authority to govern in these territories, and there's a great process of reconciliation happening in Canada right now because it's recognized that there's an ongoing genocide of Indigenous peoples, in particular women, children, and members of the LGBTQ community who are also Indigenous. So it's a very serious issue, and I always mention it because I hope that worldwide we can respect the rights of Indigenous peoples and the very important knowledge that these communities hold. With regards to the city that I live in, it's called Burnaby, and it is a city that has also recently declared a climate emergency. They have paired that declaration with a decarbonization pathway, so I'm really proud of my city for not only declaring a climate emergency, but also determining how over the next number of decades they will eliminate or become a carbon neutral emitting community. And so one of the things that Dr. Carter, if he was here, would emphasize is the great need to ensure that greenhouse gas emissions peak in 2020. And this is extremely important because if we don't do this, we will lose our chance of keeping a global temperature rise in the short term to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the reason why this goal is important is because if we do not keep temperatures within this, this limit, temperature increase, then places that are low-lying islands, for example, the Great Island states of the Pacific will disappear. Many communities will experience severe flooding. If you've seen maps of what will happen in Bangladesh, this is a great threat to millions of people who are living in low-lying regions, and it affects where I live as well, because I live in more or less a coastal community, and you know, the city is going to have to invest billions of dollars in basically adaptation mechanisms to prevent great flooding in the region. I guess one of my passions, aside from climate democracy, which I think is very important, I think right now the voices of the people of the world are not being heard. I think we're all here because we recognize this is an emergency, and our heads of government are clearly not recognizing that urgency. When I went to, I'm of course from Canada, so I went to the all-Canadian briefing at COP25 just the other day, and the negotiators are very focused on ensuring that there isn't double counting involved with the way carbon is being, perhaps carbon credits will be traded. But they aren't becoming ambitious in the way that science is telling us countries like Canada need to be. And I think this is more or less a global phenomenon among governments. So I think climate democracy is very important so that we can have our voices heard, and so that not only our voices are heard, but that translates into the urgent action we need to see. And I was lucky to attend a number of IPCC panels at the COP25, just close by, and one of the things that's emerging in all the special reports that have recently been released, they're saying climate literacy needs to be a priority. So we see a lot of numbers, we see a lot of graphs, and those are good communication tools, but I think worldwide we aren't always having the level of climate literacy to actually put those numbers into context. So organizations like the NOAA, which is noted there, have set out some principles of climate literacy, and I just wanted to introduce those to you and perhaps ask you a question to get your feedback. One of the important points is that the sun is the main source of energy in our climate. So the energy comes from the sun, it is able to warm our atmosphere and also the surface of the earth as well as the ocean. And usually the earth is in balance, so the amount of energy that comes to us from the sun is the amount of energy that goes out. But of course we have greenhouse gases such as water vapor is one of them, and there's nothing wrong with greenhouse gases in and of themselves. But that blanket of water vapor and other greenhouse gases in our atmosphere helps the global temperature be a little bit warmer than it would otherwise. It might be 20 so degrees on average lower if we didn't have some greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But what's happening now, of course, as I'm sure you all are aware, is that we've been polluting so much with primarily carbon dioxide, but other greenhouse gases as well. And that is causing the temperatures to rise because the greenhouse gases, they don't allow the energy balance to exist as it previously does. The energy comes in, but not all of the energy is going back out as we would like to maintain a livable environment. And so the second part that's important to mention is that the climate is a little bit complicated. So it's basically the interaction of the different aspects of the Earth system. And often the components of the Earth system there's 4 of them that are commonly shared, and those are the atmosphere, so the gases that we're breathing right now, the hydrosphere, which is coming down on us in the form of rain as well right now outside, the lithosphere, which is what the source of all the amazing tiles that I see throughout Madrid. There's so many great, beautiful pieces of granite and other stone. So the solid part of our Earth. And then the biosphere, the amazing diversity of life that we have on our planet. Now, what I was taught, and I love my professor, Dr. Ziegfeld, who I studied climate science with back in Burnaby. She's an IPCC expert, just as Dr. Peter Carter is, and she also teaches us that not only to consider the biosphere, but the anthrosphere. So us, our impact, because we have a little bit of a different way of impacting our surroundings than, of course, the other forms of life on Earth. And a third important point is that all life depends on the climate. So you notice in different parts of the world, different plants thrive because of different environmental conditions. Same for animals, same for all of us. We just happen to be particularly versatile. We can live in almost any place, but not all life forms can do this. And so we depend on our climate, but also we affect the climate. All life forms actually affect the climate as well. And so it's a dynamic relationship. Fourth, the climate does change over time, so we haven't always had a nice kind of climate that's friendly for humans. I see a lot of nods, right? Fifth, it's really important for us to keep improving our ability to observe climate conditions and develop our theories and also pursue modeling based on the data we're collecting. Sixth, human activity is impacting climate. I know you probably all are aware of that, but some people aren't, so that's important to emphasize. And also, not only are we impacting climate, but the changes in the climate that we're going to see will impact human societies. So I guess you can take from that that adaptation is important. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time, but I wouldn't mind asking a question if I just have a little bit of time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Can I ask the audience if you can share, because I feel like we're probably from different parts of the world here, if you can share some of the climate impacts that you're observing in the place that you live. Have you noticed any changes as a result of climate change so far?
Forest fire.
Forest fires.
Where?
In Canada, so called Canada.
Thank you. Yeah, and do you want to speak a little bit more to how that is affecting people or the landscape?
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of important habitat is lost for endangered species. In my province, we don't have any protection for endangered species, and we have some of the most rich ecosystems in the world with the open forests, and those are being wiped out by insane logging rates and then these forest fires, and it becomes quite hard to breathe. Sometimes you can't see very far in front of you on particularly bad days. Yeah, this is some of the oldest ecosystems in the world being burned at crazy rates. It's a rainforest too, so like, why is it burning?
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's not really good point. Anyone else like to share?
The Rhine River in Germany writes every other year new record low levels of water actually. This is due to the glaciers melting, and I mean at some point there's no glacier anymore.
Thank you. Maybe what I'll do is, I see one more hand, I'll take one more and then we'll pass this on Dr. Sherman.
Less rainfall and crop loss.
Okay. Which part of the world are you?
Mexico.
Mexico, okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so we've heard about the forest fires in Canada, we've heard about the River Rhine, becoming a little bit low tide, a little bit more frequently these days, and loss of crops really, Mexico, droughts as well.